Hey everyone, welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today we're continuing with the recap and review of Warrior Season 3, with Season 3, Episode 6, titled A Soft Heart Won't Do You No Favors. Now, before we get to the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep updated on all things Critic-Verse. Now, on to the review. Once again, the episode is titled A Soft Heart Won't Do You No Favors. And this line is said by Lee's garbage of a human being aunt, who apparently is the matriarch of their family, and she says this to her son, who Lee is trying to persuade him against her hateful ways. The line also applies to some of our main characters. Assam has to come along with Young Jun and Father Jun to translate a deal, but his morality may affect the outcome of the deal's future. Lee and Chao end up in the same shitty situation and ideals clash, but come together to create common ground by the end. The episode starts with Assam and Young Jun meeting with Mai Ling and Lee Young at an ice factory in Longzi territory, claiming it'll have everything they need to print, dry, and pack the counterfeit bills. Young Jun is having second thoughts, so Assam tries to keep the peace, even calls Mai Ling an asshole, which was really funny to see her reaction. And then we see that Yan Mi is already setting up shop there, and Mai Ling and Young Jun converse alone. He tells Mai Ling not to underestimate him just because he was born into this role while she had to claw her way up to the top. Mai Ling addresses her relationship with Assam, but also points out how close he's gotten to Yan Mi, and sows the seeds of doubt about her to Young Jun. Lee wakes up shackled on a train and gets a rude awakening after he tries to charge Chao. Lee asks where they are, or at least where they're going, and Chao figures Lee should know best, considering it's the bounty collected on him. Chao asks where, and Lee just says home. Assam walks up to Young Jun, catching Father Jun up on their new deal. Father Jun notes the risk of counterfeiting, especially with a partner you can't trust, and proposes a backup plan. Young Jun says Father Jun knows some Germans that own a silver mine outside San Francisco, where they can trade the fake chop for real silver, trading 3 times the going rate to make it look good, and come away with some valid currency. Young Jun says Assam is coming to translate, which he says he doesn't speak German, but Young Jun bets the Germans don't speak Cantonese. And Hong has to stay behind and run the shop. Lee is fighting his shackles while Chao probes him with questions, getting the answers by gauging his response to each question, figuring out he killed a family member for love. Lee grows frustrated after Chao blames him for their situation and throws the blame back at him, and we see Chao has been working on a more subtle escape plan in the meantime. Lee is going through withdrawal from opium, and Chao clocks this. Then Lee wonders if anyone will look for them. Lee thinks Abigail will look for him, but Chao is doubtful. Chao then berates Lee's simple view of him and goes on to explain why business and deal-making holds a higher value to him than forging bonds. To which Lee notes that he actually sees him as a coward instead of smart. The train doors open and 2 of Lee's cousins greet him, and they take Lee and Chao to Mama to decide what they're going to do. They are brought to a woman who introduces herself as Aunt Violet. She wants to wait till they get back to Savannah, and Lee will hang for what he did to her sons, and to bring Chao along because he has a strong back. Douglas brings Leary to the engagement party of Thayer's daughter. He tells Leary he has to grease some palms if he's going to be the face of Irish labor. He also recommends to watch how he talks and how he needs to be able to do one of two things: give these fat cats something they want, or be able to take away something they love. Assam is facilitating the deal, and it seems like they know it's counterfeit chop, but it's worth the risk, and asks Assam to remind Father June about his dog Cecil. Father June, apparently understanding just on the name, rolls up his sleeves and responds in German about the dog. But the German can confirm that the dog was a piece of shit. But then, with young June, he confirms the rate and the deal. Next, Douglas puts his methods on display with Thayer, Buckley's opponent for the mayoral race, and he levies the knowledge that his daughter isn't a virgin and that his son is actually his grandson, and if that information got out, his family name would be tarnished. The Germans give Assam and company a tour of the compound and how many Chinese work there, but also openly mistreat their laborers, which visibly pisses off Assam. They suggest the group stay the night and they'll finish the deal in the morning. The group drink at a local saloon, toast to Cecil, the dog, when Valentina, a German prostitute, inquires who she's going to be fucking. When Assam points out young June brings up Yan Mi, but tables it for later. Young June and Valentina get sticky in the roughest way possible. Father June and Assam have a heart-to-heart. He admits to not liking Assam because he never understood him. Now he understands more. He says Assam cares about young June, but he's a man in chaos, and that's all he'll be till he grows up and settles his shit. Young June comes back like a changed man. But Father June retires for the night. Cut to the two pissing outside, and then young June apologizes for how he reacted to Assam making a deal with Mai Ling. The pair then hear a noise, and when they find it, the Germans are beating a Chinese boy and claim he was stealing. The German's older brother diffuses the situation, and young June convinces Assam to walk away so they don't ruin the deal. As they're walking away, though, the Germans mock the name of their tongue. On the way to Savannah, one of the carriage's wheels gets stuck, and Lee's family tries to put Chao to work. When he resists, they discover whip marks on his back and want to add a few more to teach him a lesson, but Lee defends Chao, and Chao takes off running. Chao manages to give them the slip in the trees and is able to put his previous escape plan to use and gets out of his shackles. Lee is then strung up by his cousin Carter, but tries to appeal to his better nature and their past together. And it seems like he's managing to reach him, but Aunt Violent comes back. Aunt Violent wants Carter to whip Lee to assert her dominance over her boy and the situation. She then says the episode title, and Carter does what he's told. Back at the Silver Church, the deal is going well, and the Germans even want to continue again in 4 weeks. Then they all toast, except Assam, who dumps his drink while no one can see him to remain sharp. As they leave, they come upon the laborers standing around the dead body of the same little boy the Germans were beating on the previous night, with a sign labeled thief. When young June wants to protect the deal, but when the mother of the boy comes crying hysterically, Assam claims responsibility for not stopping it, but also claims that the Germans wanted them to see the boy and wanted to see if they'd do anything about it. Assam starts to head back, but Father Jun stops him, telling him this isn't his fight, but he insists otherwise. Young Jun follows, but so does Father Jun with his shotgun. As they walk back into the compound, they're in a standoff to see who makes the first move, and it's Father Jun with the shotty. Assam fights with his fists, while Young Jun dices with his knives. Father Jun does manage to save both his son and Assam at different points. Young Jun picks up a pistol, and both he and Father Jun cover Assam as he makes a run for the church to finish this. Inside, the German taunts Assam while his men are about to fight. Young Jun and Father Jun are pinned down until the boy's mother comes with a pickaxe and handles some of the men to give them an opening. Assam then makes quick work of the men, and then he kills the German in a way I can only describe as sacrilegious. He comes back out into the courtyard, and we find out Father Jun has been hit, but wants to be taken back to Chinatown. Back to the secondary plot, Lee is getting whipped, but Chao comes to the rescue, killing his aunt while Lee kills both his cousins. Later, when Lee is burying his family, Chao then comes to help him, probably so that they can both get out of there sooner. And the episode ends. Oh man, what an amazing episode. And I expected no less from the season's standalone episode, which for this show just means the episode that takes place completely out of San Francisco, like season 1, episode 5, and season 2, episode 6. Except this does have a couple scenes that are still in San Francisco, but it's few and far between. Probably because the season's a bit loaded, so they do still have to include some parts of the main plot line for some of the characters. But there are small ones, like the opening scene, the Leary scenes with Douglas, and then the single Happy Jack and Abigail scene. Now, a couple of things about this episode. I have a quick frustration with the Hong character because it doesn't feel like they're using him this season that much, compared to at least last season where he debuted and he was pretty important to the plot. This season, he's kind of a background character or just like a secondary character, and it's shown when Young Jun wants him to stay back, kind of like symbolizing the whole treatment of Hong this season. Mai Ling notices the growing relationship Assam has with Yan Mi before Young Jun sees it, but probably because they aren't even that subtle. Now, what was subtle was showing that Chao had always been plotting his escape when he was digging the nail out of the train board, and his fingers were just bloody from how long he was digging. Now, when Lee is berating Chao, he has no idea that Chao actually is a father, and last season gave his daughter up so she could have a better life. And you could see Chao's face when Lee says that he would sell his own child if it made him $1, and it really upset him. Father Jun is also shown to understand English, but also speak a little German. But when it's shown that he understands English somewhat, it's a bit surprising that he didn't push Young Jun to learn English. Maybe because he wanted him to maintain being Chinese, but it would have been a good skill for him to have. The boy's mother, who is crying over his dead body, is played by Shannon Lee, one of the show's executive producers and the only living child of Bruce Lee, who is the character that's the basis for Assam, who's the actor who's the basis for Assam. But she does get a badass scene where she takes out a couple of guys. One thing that I didn't like is the scene where Assam is taking on the German's guys before he takes him on, because he just stands there and does nothing while he has a loaded pistol when he could have clearly taken shots at Assam while he was fighting. And I guess you could say he just didn't want to hit his men, but then they were dying anyway, and he only starts to take the shot when Assam can easily defend against it. But I can't wait to see how the events of this episode are going to unfold into the following episodes. We're in the final stretch, and I can't wait to see what happens. See you next time on the Critic-Verse.